Okay, so I'm live on Facebook and YouTube, and I'm fixing to get live on Twitter. Uh, Not Twitter, Instagram. Okay, there we go. All right, I keep forgetting I can't post that way when I'm live on Instagram. Lord, I always forget that. Okay, anyway, so welcome to DT2 Comics Chat, weekly comics chat. Every Friday at 10 a.m. Central Standard Time, I come on and do it live, and I talk about whatever comic news has caught my attention for the week. Now, last week, there's so many things that happened last week. I had to do 4 stories in the time here. So if you want to go back and check that out, because we had so much happen last week between Gene Hackman's death and Michelle Trachtenberg's death, and it's just so much happened. Today, I'm just going to talk about one thing. Now, before I get started, I know many of you want to know, am I going to review Daredevil? And the answer to that question is yes, I am. I have a playlist on my YouTube channel called TV Reviews. So I have a whole separate section on my YouTube where I actually review different TV shows. Now, I don't do everything that happens in the comics world week by week because I just don't have time to do all that because there's so many other things that I do. I'm a musician, I'm a songwriter, I'm a producer, I'm an author, as well as a comics writer. So I have a lot of other stuff that I do. So I don't have time to cover everything, but I always cover something that I felt like jumped out at me that I felt like was unignorable for the week. And so, yes, I am going to review Daredevil, and I will post it on my channels when I do. Okay? What we're going to talk about today is the Powerpuff Implosion. What we're talking about today is the Powerpuff Implosion. What do I mean by that? Okay. So for those of you that know anything about the Powerpuff Girls, you know they were a cartoon on Cartoon Network. And it was about a man that actually created his family, created 3 little daughters, and there was an accident, and those daughters had powers. And the animation was, very kid-like, but the cartoon had a lot of more adult humor. But anyway, the girls' names were Blossom, Bubbles, and Buttercup. And it was really, really popular and ran for a long time. So not too long ago, the CW decided that they were going to do a live action remake. Now, everything in that sentence is the problem, and you're going to see that as we go through this. The CW decided to do a live action remake of the Powerpuff Girls. The script was so bad until it leaked online, and when people saw what they were doing, until Chloe Bennett, now she's behind me, you know Chloe Bennett from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. She was Sky, Daisy in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. It was so bad that she dropped out. So she's like, nope, not going to do this because that's how bad the script was. What they did was they leaned into wokeness so hard until it pushed the actors away. Do you know how hard you got to lean into wokeness to the actors? Just say, yeah, you know what? So what happened this week was the trailer that they were going to release for the show actually got leaked on the internet. Leaked. Now, I'm going to give you my opinion as to whether or not that's actually what happened. But that happened this week. The trailer got dropped on the internet and everybody saw it. And everybody, it lit the internet up. Everybody had a reaction. Because if you love the original cartoon and you understood the original cartoon and then you saw what they were trying to do. So before I get into any of that, let me say this as an opening statement. If you are going to repeat success, you have to understand why it was successful in the first place. One more time. If you're going to repeat success, You have to understand why it was successful in the first place. Okay? And as soon as I say CW, as soon as I say live action, as soon as I say remake, you know that that's 1, 2, 3 strikes, you're out. Because the CW doesn't do anything that they don't CW. They are notorious for ignoring source material, but everybody does now. But they're not going to take the source material. They're not going to honor the source material. It's going to be Dawson's Creek with superpowers. It doesn't matter what type of superhero fare ends up on the WB or the CW in live action, not the animation, because the animation was some of the best animation of all time. But, Powerpuff Girls was on Cartoon Network. But if the CW takes it and they're going to do a remake, it's going to be Dawson's Creek with superpowers. It's going to be about everything but the hero. It's going to be about how the hero's girlfriend is the real hero of the story. The love interest is really the true hero and the main person. It's going to be about the bait and switch of how you thought it was about this hero, but we're going to substitute in this other hero. It's going to be about how the hero needs a posse, needs an entourage, needs a man in a chair, because they can't think for themselves. None of that is from the comics. But if the CW gets a hold of it, that's exactly what's going to happen. And what else is going to happen? Race swap, gender swap, focus on sexuality. Count on it. Not maybe. That's what's going to happen. So that's what happened here. Now, in all fairness, people that have been playing the trailer have been copyright struck, and I don't want to get copyright struck. I found a tweet that still has the trailer up, but I don't think I should play it here because my video might get demonetized. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to react to it. If you want to still see that trailer, if you didn't get a chance to download it or look at it, DM me on Twitter, and I will send you the link to the tweet that still has this trailer up. But it was this big thing, and we're going to read an article about that. It was a big thing. But let me react to it first, and then we're going to read some articles, then we're going to read some tweets. Yes, we are. Okay, so the trailer starts out with a recap of the girls in live action and talking about their quirks and how Blossom's always preoccupied. And Buttercup, you know what she is? She's an angry woman of color. Her first line is, I'm not wearing that dress anymore because it's gender normative. So in other words, don't have expectations of me to actually dress like you expect a female to dress because I'm not doing that. Okay? And then they bring up Bubbles, and that's the girl in the blue, that's her. She's a drunk. Okay, Kenny said that trailer was, hold on, let me pull that up. Kenny said that trailer was pretty strange. I'm sure it started a great idea, then went into DI, brainstorm session. Great ideas are always ruined. Trailer's pretty strange, yes. Sure started out a great idea, don't agree with that. Then it went to the DI brainstorm session, agree with that. Great ideas always ruined, agree with that. I don't agree that this was a great idea. And the reason I don't agree that it was a great idea is because for you to do anything with the Powerpuff Girls, you have to understand why they were successful in the first place. And no one wants to see them like this. That's what everybody knew they didn't understand. Nobody wants to see them as adults. Nobody wants to see them angry. Nobody wants to see them full of angst or whatever it is that they are trying to do. Nobody wants to see the Powerpuff Girls like that. Nobody. Okay? And so you have to understand how to capture and reproduce magic. You have to understand what made it magic in the first place. And so nobody wants to see them as adults, and nobody wants to see them on a soapbox on their platforms talking about woke talking points. Don't nobody want to see that. Nobody wants to see that. Okay? So the girls start out doing that, and then it shows them when they're grown, and then because now Donald Faison is now their father because, of course, they can't be the Caucasian family that they were, so they had to race swap and make the daddy black because, of course, they did. And so one day, long story short, the girls are out on an adventure and they end up killing Mojo. So Blossom runs away. Blossom runs away, and Buttercup becomes a real hero. She becomes a firefighter, and Bubbles actually becomes a street entertainer, puppet show. Not sure what she's doing. Her own reality show. Not quite sure 100% what Bubbles is doing. Okay, so they did that, and so it's 7 years later, and then they all come back, and then they have to fight for the city again. And of course, Buttercup is angry again, and I'm not going to fight, and I'm not doing that again. And so the father has to talk him into it, and you're my daughters, and all that matters is your happiness, and blah, 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 blah. And so it's CW'd. Okay, it's completely CW'd, and it was so bad until it made Chloe Bennett quit before they got through the trailer. It was so bad until they was like, nope. So like I said, if you want to see that, I don't want to take the chance to get my video copyright struck or demonetized. If you want to see it, I found a tweet that still has it. So DM me on Twitter and I will send you the link to that tweet that still has this trailer up, because I don't feel like going through all that with copyright strikes and YouTube and all that. Okay? So let's check out an article where it talks about how they were scrambling to get this trailer down. So let me pull that up on the screen. Okay, you should see that on your screen. Get rid of this, and let me do that. Live action Powerpuff Girls trailer WB doesn't want you to see keeps disappearing from the internet. Warner Brothers is trying to squash any post that includes footage of the terrible trailer. That's why I didn't want to put it in this video, because they really are. Because it all of a sudden just disappeared from Twitter. Okay? A trailer for the canceled 2023 live-action CW Powerpuff Girls show was leaked. The internet almost universally deemed it a dumpster fire and started clowning on it. And Warner Brothers, which owns the rights to the superhero sisters, has been going to great lengths to scrub it from the internet. Why would you care that much about a leaked trailer for something you've already canceled? Probably because it's terrible. But the question then becomes, why? Why is it terrible? I already told you why. Because don't nobody want to see that. Don't nobody want to see the Powerpuff Girls like that. People are tired of their favorite IPs getting hijacked by the wokies. Now, I've been saying that from the beginning, and whenever you tell the truth up front, that people are always going to rag on you, attack you, and you should have seen some of the comments when I was talking about Captain America, Brave New World. You should have seen some of the stuff. I mean, people just lose their minds, these keyboard warriors, these internet rage baiters, whatever. You don't get to tell me what to say. You don't get to tell me what to think and feel. You better go find somebody with a weak mind. I'm not him. And so everybody knew from the jump, because don't nobody want to see the Powerpuff Girls like this right here. Don't nobody want to see that. There's Al. Al said Weber. That's right. That's right. Don't nobody want to see the Powerpuff Girls like this. You don't understand. And that's at the heart of what I'm trying to get to today. You don't understand what made the IP successful in the first place. Now, if you just take that principle and you apply it to all your favorite franchises and you wonder why they're in the toilet, it's because they're being run by people that don't understand what made them successful in the first place, or they're being run by people that are activists that hijack the IP to use as a platform for the particular kind of activism, or they're being run by people who hate the IP and hate the fans. That's where we are now in fandom today. Everybody wishes it was different. What Al said the trailer was horrible. Thank goodness it's dead in the water. That's right, because it was horrible. Like I said, if you want to see it, I found a place that still has it up, because WB has been working hard to scrub it. Okay, so let's look at the bottom part of that. All that said is ultimately meaningless because the video is already out there and circulating on the internet. Okay, Warner Brothers can copyright strike as many social media posts as it wants. Social media posts as it wants. Eventually the company will stop caring and people will still have the video to share. The irony of these attempts to wipe the internet of this video is that it only makes it more of a story. Exactly. Warner Brothers hunting down every tweet and TikTok of the trailer is just as much a story as the leak itself. Exactly. There's a literal name for this phenomenon. It's called the Streisand effect, a reference to the fact that when the legendary singer and actor Barbra Streisand tried to have an image of her home removed from the internet, it only drew more attention. In the meantime, I guess I'll keep adding new embeds to our original story about the trailer each time WB nukes whichever one I've got in there. You can't wash away the horrible stink of bad television, Warner Brothers. And the worst thing about this, wait. CW, cartoonishly woke. That's exactly right. That's right. And Al's saying, hit my like button and subscribe to me. That's exactly right, too. Go hit that like button and subscribe. So let me get rid of that again. So it definitely has had a Streisand effect on what's been going on. But I want to take a deeper dive underneath all that. And then we're going to look at some tweets. Now, remember, if you want to see the trailer, I still have a tweet where they have it. I will DM it to you if you still want to see it. But before we look at those tweets, I want to take a deeper dive into what's really going on here. I want you to notice that every time an IP is hijacked, it's hijacked by people that don't create themselves. If they created themselves, they wouldn't have to hijack. You ever think about that? People that are trying to beat you over the head with their ideas and their platforms and their ideologies, they're not creators. How do we know that? Because they could create their own. They don't create. They hijack something that's already successful, that already has eyes on it, and then they turn it into something that's more in the image of what they want. Now, I said it on Twitter this week. As a matter of fact, we're going to look at that, but I'm going to say it here again on this live. That's what you get for listening to people that came to the door calling you names. If we're talking about comic books, we've had 80 plus years. If we start with Superman in 1938, we've had, what's that, 87 years? We've had 80 plus years where Superman has never been out of print. Did you know that? Since Superman hit the comic book page, he's never been out of print. Superman has always been in some kind of media, print book media, radio shows, animation, live action. And the first superhero to get a movie serial was actually Captain Marvel, that people now refer to as Shazam. Not Carol Danvers, but Billy Batson that says Shazam. Captain Marvel was actually the first live action superhero movie serial, if you didn't know that. So we have had varying degrees of success since 1938, when Superman dropped. And Batman dropped in 1939. So you listen to a bunch of people, and we know who started it. We know exactly where it started. You listen to a bunch of people that came to the door and called you names and told you that 40, 60, 70, 80 plus years of success was wrong. It wasn't supposed to go like that. And that's what they get for listening to that. That's why all these IPs are in the toilet. I shouldn't have to say that, but I found out I do. I found out that a lot of people don't understand why the IPs are in the toilet. It's because you listen to people that came to the, it's like vampires. In traditional lore and mythology, vampires, you have to let them in. Vampires cannot come into a home unless they're invited. That's the traditional lore and mythology of vampires. That's what this was. That's what wokeism was. It was vampirism that you had to let in. They came to the door and called you names and told you that you were sexist, you were racist, you were misogynist, you were a phobe of some kind. And they said, well, we don't want to be that. And then they started virtue signaling. Virtue signaling is where you're not concerned with actual virtue. You're not concerned with actual goodness. You're concerned with looking like you're concerned. So they came to the door, hit you with them names, and then you let them in like vampires. That's why all of these IPs are in the toilet now. Why am I taking time to say that? Because I'm giving a call out to you creators to not let that happen to your IPs. Don't you know you have a right to write about whatever you want to write about? If you want to write a story with all black people, write a story with all black people. If you want to write a story with all men, write a story with all men. If you want to write a story that's all Japanese, write a story that's all Japanese. If you want to write a story with all Caucasians, write a story with all Caucasians. You have a right to write whatever kind of story you want, okay? Because it's the passion of your heart, it's the ideas in your head. Because I'm always about the creators. I'm always about the creatives all the time. Allison testify. You have a right to write any kind of story that comes to you. And if you know anything about writing, you need to write what you care about. You are not going to have any energy in your story if you, as the creator, don't care about it. You can't write about other people's ideologies or other people's passions, other people. No, you can't. You got to write about what you care about. Okay? That's why I write children's books. I write stuff that I wish existed when I was a kid. That's why I make comic books, because I've been making superheroes since I was a little boy. And I haven't been a little boy in a long time. And I've loved superheroes my entire life. My father was the one that introduced me to superheroes. And I loved them instantly, and I still do. So I write about the stuff that I care about. I write about the teams and the heroes that I created, and some of them I created years and years ago. Don't you know the world needs to hear your voice? Why do you think you have that unique voice? Don't you understand that? Yes, being a man influences my perspective. Yes, being Black, but I'm also Native American. Okay, and I got a few other things in there too, but the point I'm trying to make is that I claim all my heritages, because everything from my father and everything from my mother feeds into me, and it shapes how I see the world. That's not right or wrong. That's just perspective. So I'm going to write about the stuff that I care about. I grew up in a town that was multicultural before diversity was a thing. That's why everybody in my high school class, every time we hear that word diverse, we always laugh. Because where I grew up with, and I'm talking about in public school, we had Jews, we had Gentiles, we had Sikhs, we had Iranians, we had Mexicans, we had Jamaicans, we had Japanese, we had Chinese, we had Irish, we had some everybody where I grew up. So I grew up around a multicultural group of people. So that's normal to me. We also had a lot of mixed people. Those of you that don't, well, I take that back. You may know about it because it may be true in your culture. In your culture, your ethnic group, sometimes people that aren't purebloods, like you have a mixed heritage, like you have one parent of one ethnicity and another parent of another, sometimes you can catch a lot of flack from people for that. So with African Americans, back in the day, it was something that was called mulattoes. And mulattoes are where you have one white parent and one Black parent. Your skin tone is different. The mixing of the genetics is obvious in how you look in most cases, not every case, because like Holly Berry, her mama is white. But the point I'm trying to make is that all that feeds into me. And if you're a writer, that's what feeds into who you are. You don't have to apologize for that. To who? If English isn't your first language, you don't have to apologize for that. To who? You write what you know about. Your passion will then get into the story. And that's what we want. That's what we want. We need your passion in the story, because the story's not going to have no heat, and the story's not going to have no legs. And the story's not going to be anything that it needs to be if you don't write it according to what's important to you. Do you understand that? So, speaking to all the creatives. Okay. Now, let's look at some tweets. Let's look at some reactions to this Powerpuff Girls implosion, because this thing literally imploded. It was so bad, it turned in on itself. Okay. So let me give you this principle before we look at them. If you don't know anything about writing, let me give you a principle. You have to get it right at the premise. You have to get it right at the premise. What does that mean? What that means is that when you're going through all your ideas, you have to pick the idea where the premise is solid. If you try to build a story on a premise that isn't good, there's nothing you can do to fix it later. You can't fix that in the mix. Just like recording engineers know, if you've got a bad recording, you can't fix that. There's plenty of tools that try to improve audio, but you need a good recording. Well, the same thing is true if you're a writer and you're trying to write a story or create a cartoon or create anything you're trying to create, a video. The idea of it got to be good from the jump. So let's take some examples. Jurassic Park. Jurassic Park puts two evolutionary giants in the same arena, humans and dinosaurs. That's a good idea, but in practice, that ends up being somewhat of a limited premise. Let's take another example, Predator. You take an alien species that hunts humans like game, like we hunt deer, and put them in the same arena. That's really good in that first movie, but then the premise becomes kind of limited, as opposed to a premise like Star Wars. Star Wars is a premise about galactic conflict. And because that premise is so broad, the movies tell the story of the Skywalkers, but the expanded universe tells all kinds of stories. Some Skywalker based, some not, because the premise is so wide. There's so many stories to tell in the Star Wars universe. You understand that? So for those of you that are writers, write all your ideas down, but you've got to go through and pick out the one where the premise is the most solid. That's what will give you your best story world. If it don't work at the premise line, if the idea don't make any sense, and this idea doesn't make any sense, no one wants to see the Powerpuff Girls as teens or young adults. Don't nobody want to see that. Okay, the whole premise is that they were created by their fathers, little girls with powers. And the animation style, even though a lot of the humor was more adult, the animation style lent it to a certain vibe. You can't look at the screen behind me. You can't make that with that. Okay? So let's pull up some tweets. And remember, if you want to see the trailer, I still got a tweet with the trailer in it. So let's pull up some stuff. And we're going to go through that right now. Now, here's a tweet I wrote. And it said this right here. It says, so I think it's safe to say that no show in history would have CW harder than Powerpuff Girls CW would have. That show was finna CW harder than Dawson's Creek, harder than Smallville, harder than Arrow, harder than The Flash. It was finna CW harder than anything we've seen. You know why? Because it was going to take all the ideas going all the way back to Dawson's Creek, all the way through Smallville, all the way through the Arrowverse. It was going to put all them ideas in one show. Okay, it was going to put all those ideas in one show. Okay, so Todd is here talking about the Charlie's Angels reboot. That's a bad idea because Charlie's Angels was a product of its time. And that's what I said. You turning him into the wisecracking guy in the cheer type. That's right, because they split Mojo Jojo into a father and son. Now, Spider Lou says he liked the trailer, should have been series even for just one season. Jason says, from the trailer, it appears to be Charmed mixed with Umbrella Academy with a sadly miscast Donald Faison. That's right. That's right. Charmed mixed with Umbrella Academy should be his own show. You don't take the Powerpuff Girls and try to make them that. You see that? This show is finna CW so hard. We already know what would have happened. We already saw the gender swapping. We already saw the race swapping, and we're going to talk about that in a minute. And we know that it would have been about the drama of their relationships. And just, don't nobody want to see that. Okay, and anytime you have a script leak that's so bad, the show gets canceled, you get done with the trailer and you don't even go into production because it's so bad that don't tell you nothing. Okay, let's look at some more tweets up in this mug. Okay. All right. Now, there's Lost Media. Busters were the ones that originally broke the original story, the original trailer. So, like I said, I have it, and I will deem it to you if you want to see it. I made a tweet that got almost 260,000 views. So, as it turns out, this is even worse than we imagined it to be. NB said, which shouldn't even be possible. And I said, they're living their best lives. CW meets Power Rangers, which is an insult to the Power Rangers. Because the Power Rangers work. They still work. The Power Rangers work when you keep them the Power Rangers, when they do what they do. Okay? Uh, I don't know how to say. Jay the Nine says, I can't even know how this got into production. There's some things humanity shouldn't discover. It looked fun, though, for sure. Ghostfeet said, there's no way that's real. Okay, I guess they blanked out the offensive tweets. So my tweet got 5.7K likes, 44 bookmarks, 68 reposts, because it said it was worse than we imagined it to be, because it stripped the fun out of the original. How many times in today's comic fandom experiences do you have remakes? Cajun says this was a bad look. That's right. How many times do you have remakes that strip all the fun out? Do you know why? Because the people that are doing the remake don't have no fun in them. They don't understand. You can't make something fun if ain't no fun in you. You ever think about that? And don't nobody want to see this. There's nothing appealing about these girls at those ages with those problems. When you write characters that are in a certain stage of life, it's why Smallville became such a mess after season 3. Smallville works as long as Clark and them is in high school. As soon as Clark and them got out of high school, now you have to manufacture reasons to keep all those people. You had to make everybody a townie, which means that nobody graduated high school and left. Is that true in your high school experience? Because that's not true in mine. Some people graduated and stayed in my hometown. A lot of people graduated and left. Some people live in other countries. But Smallville only works until Clark gets out of high school, because that's the premise. Once Clark graduates, they had to break all types of canon rules and all type of reality rules to make all them same characters stay in the same space. You understand that? Okay, just saying no, he left. That's why after high school, Smallville just goes into a whole bunch of stuff that didn't even make any sense. That's what's going on with the Powerpuff implosion. Nobody wants to see him at the stage of life. Nobody wants to see him with whatever kind of militant attitude they have, or if they're trying to be overly sexual, or if they're trying, because you know it would have got in Instagram. You know it would have got into OnlyFans. You know it would have gone down that road eventually. You know it would have. There's no way it wouldn't have. One of these girls, probably Blossom or Bubbles, would have gotten into the kind of stuff we see now on OnlyFans, or even, wild Instagrams. Guaranteed that would have happened. Do you want to see the Powerpuff Girls like that? No. Don't nobody want to see the Powerpuff Girls like that. Nobody. Okay? So let me pull up this tweet here, and we're going to look at this. Now, I really wanted to talk about this in particular. So let me put this on the screen, because this was just so ridiculous. So let's look at what this tweet says here. Buttercup complaining about how the cartoon completely whitewashed us, when the cartoon came first and the show was the one that changed everything, is the perfect metaphor for the putrid mentality that has overtaken the entertainment industry in the last decade or so. Right? That is correct. Buttercup trying to smash on the original show, and that has been, see, for those of you that were into comics and fandom before 2015, you know that before 2015, there was a sense of reverence. That whenever we introduced something new in the comic world, it was always built on respect and homage for that which had come before. Anytime anything was introduced that was new, it was built on what we had known of the character up to that point. And even when we did full reboots, sometimes they would multiverse it, sometimes they would, multi-earth it, sometimes they'd do a whole bunch of things. But before 2015, there was a built-in respect for that which has gone before. And you know why it's so dangerous to get rid of that? I will tell you why. Because geeks are generational. What we do as we go through life, just like my father is the one that introduced me to comic books, we pass on things that we love to our youngins, your children, your grandchildren, or if you don't have those, your nieces, your nephews, your little cousins. You pass on the stuff you love. You sit down and say, let's watch this movie. Let me introduce you to Star Wars. Let me introduce you to whatever you're into. Let me introduce you to The Matrix. Let me introduce you to Harry Potter. Let me introduce you to all the things that started last century. All the things that blew up in the 20th century. What geeks do is you introduce that to the younger people in your family or your circle. So that means when you anger and dismiss the older generation, you're not just losing them. You're losing all of the younger people that they would have influenced. What happened in 2015, and we know who started it. What happened in 2015 was the spirit and the attitude changed to, we gon' bash the original. We're gonna bash the thing that brought us this far. And we're gonna do everything. That's when it changed, if you're wondering when it happened. And we know who did it. They said, we're gonna bash the spirit change. And all of a sudden, you started seeing stuff like this. Buttercup got the nerve in this live action remake to talk about the cartoon completely whitewashed us. Right, because the man, the daddy, was black and he created a mixed woman of color. He created a mixed Asian woman because Chloe Bennett is half Chinese, and he created a regular blonde white girl. That ain't what happened in the cartoon, but she got the nerve to sit up here, a line in the film talking about the cartoon completely whitewashed us, bashing on the very thing that created the IP in the first place. Because as we have come to find out, I'm probably going to tweet this, but I'll say it here on the live first. As we have come to find out that diversity equals, it's more important to exclude white people than it is to tell a good story. Good God Almighty up here. I know I'm telling the truth up in here. Diversity has come to mean that it's more important to exclude white people than it is to tell a good story. And that don't even make no sense. We have had, right, boom, that's right. We have had people of all ethnic groups. We have had men and women in comic fandom since the beginning. Phantoma, Sheena, Mandrake the Magician, people, the Phantom, the Spirit, the Shadow. So many people. The Green Turtle, the Whip. They debuted at the same time as Jay Garrick Flash and Hawkman. So that's why you always hear me call that out, because it's been a lie from the jump. That we're afraid of strong women. Really? You need to read Sheena. Sheena goes all the way back to the 30s. You need to read Phantoma. That goes all the way back to the 30s. We've always had women in comics. We've always had people of different ethnic groups, of Hispanic heritage, of Asian heritage, of African heritage, of African American heritage, because that's not the same thing. Just so you know, of Native American heritage. We've always had different kinds of people. And what happened 10 years ago was they started talking about DI, diversity, equity, and inclusion. And diversity has developed to mean that they think it's more important to exclude white people than it is to tell a good story. I'm probably going to tweet that today, because that ain't nothing but some foolishness. That ain't nothing but foolishness. That is nothing but foolish. That ain't nothing but foolishness. Comic fans and fandoms of any kind of fandom, because your fandom might be a movie franchise, or it might be books of some kind. You know, like the Harry Potter series, which got turned into a movie series. Whatever it is that you're into, we come together because we enjoy the story world. We love the characters. We love the story world. Now, those of you that follow me on Twitter, you know I'm a big fan of Terminator, Sarah Connor Chronicles. I love saying everything they touch turns to crap. Every business, not just comics, they have destroyed. That's right. Al says, DI created to keep us divided. That's right. That's right. Everybody can bring their influence to the table. That's the most beautiful thing about being a creative. your gender, your age, your generation, the year you were born, the way you grew up, the town you grew up in, your first language, whatever it is that makes you you, you can bring that to the table and infuse your characters with that. That's how you find your voice. That's how you find your voice as a writer. What's wrong with that? Don't you know how many 1950s B movies influenced Star Wars? Lucas talks about that all the time. You can even see it in Darth Vader's construction. You can even see it in the floating, a torture device he used to torture Leia with a little needle coming out of it. That's straight out of Flash Gordon. Everything that makes you you, you bring to the table. And I have always said, and I will continue to say, that it has never been true that we haven't always had diversity in comics. That ain't never been true. That ain't never been true. Again, the Green Turtle, the Whip. Green Turtle was Asian, the Whip was Mexican, Forerunner, or kind of built off of Zorro himself. Okay, but Green Turtle and the Whip debuted, same comic as the Flash and Hawkman. Did you know that? So it has never been true. Did you know that Dick Grayson is Roma? He's Romanian, so is Wanda Maximoff and Pietro Maximoff. Did you know that? Did you know that Ben Grimm is Jewish? Did you know that Kitty Pryde is Jewish? Did you know that? This is what I'm trying to tell you. This is what I'm trying to tell you. It's always been a lie. We have always had diversity. So once you put something on the market, the way the market works is the market is going to respond based on whether or not they like it or not. That's not racism. That's whether or not they like the content or not. You can't make everything sell at the same level. What is wrong with people? See, that's why people like that, they just get mad at me. Because you can't make everything sell at the same level. Once you put something out there, people are going to respond to it based on whether they like it or not. But this putrid mentality, that's why I wanted to review this tweet, is exactly like that. Okay, let's look at some of these comments. Look at this. Fun fact, this was changed from the script. Bubba's supposed to say a line like this. Okay. Always believed in you and defended you, Dad, even when you sold away our likeness to that cartoon, which, by the way, totally whitewashed us. Even then, I had your back. I always had a smile on my face. I never broke character, even though there was so much more to me. I was put family and the team first, no matter what. So, in other words, she's still bashing the cartoon. She's still saying that the Powerpuff cartoon on Cartoon Network, which was the original, was wrong for not being diverse enough. Do you understand how insulting that is? And Ebony Maw says, good Lord. Here's what I was talking about. Blossom's fine. I saw her on Insta that she has a boyfriend. I saw her on LinkedIn and she got promoted. And I saw on Facebook that she still talks to Grandpa despite their political differences. Coming back here is probably triggering for her. Why? Because she's the one who killed Mojo. I mean, moveon.org. Do you understand? Do you understand? You think Blossom's white, but the show seems to imply Blossom was some sort of Asian until puberty turned her white. Now that happens a lot. Many times when they have Asian characters, they will have full Asian child actors. And then when the character is grown, they have Eurasian actors, some Caucasian, some Asian. Okay, they did that on Smallville with Kristen Krug. Kristen Krug is mixed. The little girl that played her when she was little was full Chinese, I think. Chloe Bennett is mixed. Okay, and so they do that a lot too. And then, now there's no easy way for me to say this, so I'm just going to say it. All black people don't look the same. Oh, Lord. Now, that's true for every ethnic group, but I'm just going to talk about what I know. All black people don't look the same. Okay? Among African Americans, we have everything from dark black, so black until you almost blue, to pass for white. In the spectrum of people that would identify as black Americans, we have people that are so dark, their skin shines. And then we have people that are also African American that could pass for being Caucasians. All black people don't look the same. And all mixed people don't look the same. Like I told you, I'm African American and Native American, and I got something else in there too. But the point I'm trying to make is all black people don't look the same. So when you hire a quote unquote black actress, They don't represent every look a black person could have. Lord have mercy. Also, Professor X is white in the cartoon too. That's true. Okay, I'll agree to all that. Characters are very often mouthpieces for the writers, though. It's a very common thing to do in media. That's right. And considering so many reboots of shows seem to have disdainful attitudes, there it is, towards original content, there it is, and original fans, there it is, I think it's more than reasonable to assume it here. There's always going to be people that jump on the timeline because they do it to me every day. They say you're overreacting, that it's not true, it's not supposed to go like that. Why do you care? All that, it's the same talking points, the same stupid stuff. You know why? Because they don't create nothing. They criticize that which is already successful. They don't create nothing. Anybody that's a creator don't have time. Lord have mercy. I'm writing all day. I'm writing music. I'm writing something all day, and I tweet on breaks. But I'm doing something. And sometimes way into the night. That's why I'm up at night, because I'm doing stuff. So the point I'm trying to make to you is that people that are truly creative spend their time creative. Now, let me look at these comments. Cajun says, yo, that kills me. What kills you? Kills you, me saying that all black people don't look the same. It's so true. It's so true. It's so true. If you are of mixed ethnicity, when it comes to black blood, it's the strongest blood in America. Because you've got one drop of black blood, you black. Did you know that? Everybody else that feeds into ethnicity, you can have a mixed heritage. If you got one drop of black blood, you black. Black blood is the strongest blood in America. Did you know that? All black people don't look the same. It's not just to avoid copyrights, etc. It avoids dating your show to use fictional companies and brands. Okay, that makes sense. So that's what I mean when I say African Americans know, the Asian race swap as a child. Yeah, it's so true. It's so very true. You see it over and over again. Because Kristen Kruk is Eurasian. She got a white parent and an Asian parent. And then who was it talked about? Haley Steinfeld is black and white and Filipino. Did you know that? Mm-hmm. There are a lot of people that are mixed, and a lot of people that have multiple heritages, but you just go by how they look. Every African American knows we don't all look the same. We really don't. Don't have the same hair texture, don't have the same skin tone. African Americans know this, but we also know when we're represented, that's always going to look a certain way. Which is why, if you think about it, you rarely see light-skinned blacks in prominent roles. Well, that's the reason why. Now, a different world changed that. Way back in the Cosby days, different world changed that. A lot of things have changed it since then. But many times when they talk about getting a black person, they're talking about somebody my color or darker. It's the most amazing thing. So they had the nerve in this script to have them bash and bust it on the original cartoon. I couldn't believe it. I still can't believe it. The level of disrespect you have to bash different skin colors in the same house. That's right. That's right. I guarantee you, find you somebody black. I guarantee you, if they're really, really light, they have some really dark relatives that don't like them because they light. And if the whole family's light, they have some dark relatives that are shunned because they dark. I guarantee you, this is something African Americans go through. I guarantee you. And then once you start getting to marrying different ethnicities and different religions, stuff like that, that creates this whole other thing. Because, whatever. But I've been around that since I was little, which is why it don't register to me. I've been around mixed couples. I've been around mixed people. I've been around mixed face. I've been around all that since I was a kid. So I didn't understand why people started talking about diversity like it was a new thing. That's been my whole life. It's not new to me. So the point I'm trying to make to you is about how this disrespect needs to stop. The Powerpuff reboot on the CW epitomizes everything that's wrong with fandoms today, and I said that in a tweet. I said that The stuff that we see today epitomizes everything that's wrong and the stuff that we see in the Powerpuff reboot, because I'm trying to see if I can find it. I don't know if I can find it now. But anyway, because it's based on bashing the old. Okay? Al says, I'm Puerto Rican. If I was a chill with my whole family, most would think it's just a group of friends, because we're all shades of looks, heights. That's right. See, that's real life. That's real life as opposed to, pseudo life or exaggerated life or stereotypes. That's why you hear me talk about stereotypes so much. That stuff became a part of the American lexicon in the 80s with the John Hughes movies, with all the Molly Ringwald movies are tropes. All the Patrick Dempsey movies, Can't Buy Me Love, all the John Hughes movies, they're tropes. A brain, a jock, a nerd, a princess, a weirdo. Tropes. That's what taught Americans to think in tropes. That's why people still think like that now. The human soul is more complex than some Hollywood trope in a movie. Let me just say that. One more time. Let's see what Dave says here. This Powerpuff Girl show was the epitome of everything wrong with subversive reboots. Now there's the phrase right there. Subversive reboots and woke millennial writing. Subversive reboots. You want to spit in the face of everything that built the house in the first place. Do you understand that don't make any sense? So as I sign off today, I want to leave you with a challenge. I challenge you, if you're creative, to write what you care about and make it as authentic as possible. You know who's really good at that? Ben Affleck and Martin Scorsese. Because Ben Affleck is a Bostonian. He loves Boston. And some of his best work, some of his best work features Boston as a character. Like Gotham City is a character in Batman stories, he features Boston as a character in some of his best work. Scorsese writes a lot about mobs and gangsters. Okay. Cajun says woke ain't been the same since 2010. It got turned up. Now, that word woke used to mean stay woke. It used to mean don't let them pull the wool over your eyes with closeted or hidden or covert racism. That's what the word woke meant when it started. It has morphed since then, which has come to now mean to hate everything that was built originally, especially if it was built by straight white males. And diversity has come to mean it's more important to exclude white people to make it non-white than it is to tell a good story. Inclusion tends to move towards, again, anything that's not white and also different type of sexualities and genders. John Hughes movies hardly if ever had minorities in them. All do you not have diverse friends? Well, if you're talking about something like The Breakfast Club, that was shot in a North Shore suburb. And the North Shore in Illinois is the richest part of Illinois. And so there's not necessarily a lot of different people. So if he had mainly Caucasian experiences in that section of Illinois along the shoreline, that would actually be kind of common. Like that was shot, if I'm not mistaken, in Glenbrook South. In Glenbrook South High School back in the day, there's like one black kid. So Black Panther says, I hate the way woke is used now. To me, it means anti-black. See, it's morphed into meaning so many different things. But I want you to notice something. They're all negative. They're all negative. The connotations of woke now is all negative because it's all designed to bash a group. It is not necessary to bash a group to tell a story. That's why every time you hear me say, I'll say, hit the like button. That's right. Hit the like button, like this video and share it. Every time you hear me stand up against anybody that had the nerve to say we don't like strong women, meaning we geeks, we common people, please shut up. Please shut your ignorant mouth. Quote me on that. You can go all the way back to Linda Carter's Wonder Woman, to the Bionic Woman, Lindsay Wagner. You can Secrets of Isis, Almighty Isis. You can go back to Super Stretch, the cartoon with a black couple, Super Stretch and Micro Woman. You can go back to the Super 7, which was mixed, Egypt, Greek, black, Xena and Gabrielle, Sarah Connor, Ripley from Sigourney Weaver and James Cameron, Trinity in The Matrix, Zoe Washburn, Firefly. We've always had strong, oh Lord Jesus help me. We've always had strong women in sci-fi and fantasy. I don't understand it, these stupid people. You gonna miss me with your foolishness, talking about we don't like strong women. That's why you hear me cry out against that every time I hear it, because it's a lie. It's been a lie from the jump. We have always had strong women. Yvonne Craig's Batgirl, there's nobody that doesn't like Yvonne Craig's Batgirl. And she was sassy and she was strong. She fought alongside Batman and Robin. She had her own equipment. She had her own motorcycle. She had her own everything. Everybody loved Yvonne Craig's Batgirl. Everybody. I've never met any fan didn't like her, didn't like that incarnation of Batgirl. So what are you talking about? What you're talking about is a bunch of garbage. What you're talking about is a bunch of crapzilla. That's what it is. And every time I hear it, I'm going to call it out because it ain't true. You don't have to bash men to make a good female character. You don't have to bash white people to make a character of another ethnicity. You don't have to bash gender to make a character that maybe is speaking to your experience. Speak to your experience, right to what you know. What's wrong with that? But you don't have to bash other people to write that character. You don't have to bash other people and other whatever. No, you don't. No, you don't. No, you don't. People's politics, people's faith beliefs, people's traditions, people's histories are just as real to them as yours are to you. I'm not talking about rightness or wrongness here. Okay? I'm not talking about rightness or wrongness. Al said most of these new shows just suck. I'm not talking about rightness or wrongness. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the reality of experience. I'm talking about that if you've been through something or you grew up a certain way or you experienced some things in life, that is actually the truth. Dave T. Geek says surrounding strong females with strong males actually elevates the females. Right. Neo, Morpheus, and Trinity. Trinity was not one step behind them men. But as a group, they were incredible. That's what made the first Matrix so interesting. So I'm saying that whatever your life experience has been, it's just as real to you as other people's. I'm not talking about rightness or wrongness. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about whatever your beliefs are, whatever your experience has been in life, that's real to you. So write what you know. Write what you know. Write it with passion. Write it with authenticity. Okay? And then you'll have a strong story. You'll be able to tell the story that you want to tell. That doesn't require bashing other people. Okay? If you're from the South in America, write about life in the South. That's not the same as life from the Midwest. I'm from the Midwest. That ain't the same as life on the West Coast. If you grow up on the West Coast, that ain't the same as life growing up on the East Coast. No, it's not. The 4 different zones of America have 4 different cultures. It's different. Your life is different depending on where you grew up. That's not right or wrong. That's your experience. Do you understand that? Do you understand that America is not 300 years old yet? Don't you know that some people come from countries that can trace their roots back to Bible times? Thousands of years worth of recorded history. That's not wrong. How's that wrong? So what I want to leave you with is I want you to, those of you that are creatives, because we need your voice in today's market, because this woke stuff hasn't done anything but destroy everything it touches. because it's built on bashing that which has come before. We don't need any more of that. We need to start something new. And what we need to do is we need to write authentic stories based on everything that feeds us and makes us who we are as people. Write what you care about. Write what you're passionate about. Write what you know. Don't hijack a property. Like, once again, look at the girls behind me. Don't hijack a property and trying to turn it into something because it was all white girls, so now it has to be a mixed woman of color and a mixed Asian woman and a white girl, or else it ain't right. And that's a lie. If you want something of mixed ethnicity, write it. What's wrong with that? They had a cartoon on way back in the day called The Young Sentinels. Hercules, Mercury, and Astrea. Mercury was Asian. Hercules looked more Aryan, more Norwegian. He kind of looked like Thor. And Astrea was black with an afro. The Young Sentinels, the Space Sentinels, is what they ended up being called. That's way back in the day. So don't tell me that diversity and equity and inclusion is new. No, it's not. No, it's not. It's just an excuse you're using to bash things that have been working for 80 years. And on that note, I'm going to sign off, okay? Don't forget to like this video and share this video. If you want to see this trailer, Captain Planet was one from the 90s. That's right. If you want to see this trailer, I still have a tweet with this trailer on it. So DM me and I'll send you the link because I don't want to get into the copyright stuff or whatever, but it's still out there. And it doesn't matter how much they chase it down. It's still going to be out there. Okay? Because this was, what's the title of today's chat? This was the Powerpuff Implosion. And with that, DT2 Comics Chat out.